for everyone who's tuned in right now. People have been asking me, where can they get this record? I finally, well, I didn't do it. My homeboy finally got a link for everybody that want to purchase this record. Boycott Christmas, right? It's just a show about, or it's a song about, of course, recycling black dollars, but as an offensive method for injustice. Trayvon Martin, Oscar Grant, Mike Brown. I mean, come on. Go to cdbaby.com/CD/beat cartel featuring poet. You can go right to CD Baby and just type in Boycott Christmas, and the song will pop up under Beat Cartel featuring POET. Go right now and download this record right now. Everybody been begging for it, asking for it. cdbaby.com/CD/beat cartel featuring poet. Or just go to cdbaby.com and type in Boycott Christmas. Great record. Love to support artists. Love to do that. This is what we do. This is the community empowerment segment. Welcome back to the So What Morning Show. It's Monday, the 3rd, November, 2014. The year is almost done, right?
Indeed.
It's time for us to get this paper. It's time for us to get this bread. We have a timely topic. But as is commonplace, I got to support businesses. It's what I do. It's what I'm about. On the phone line right now, we have Veronica Conway. Veronica, talk to me about what we got cracking today.
Well, though, so you've been, hanging out with us in the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur Boot Camp.
Right.
And I just think that people, if we're going to talk about black economics, we got to get ourselves organized first. We need to go into 2015 with a clear and concrete plan.
Right.
One of the brothers that's in the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur Boot Camp, he has gone from, and it's a few short weeks, paying his business $19.50 an hour that he was paying every hour that he was working in his business we're making a plan and a model for well over $250,000 for this year.
Wow.
So if you want that kind of shift in your business, it requires understanding, having a model and having a plan that makes some sense. So today, at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern, we're going to do a conference call, and we're going to talk about what the requirements are of a plan. So this is for entrepreneurs. This is for folks that are already in business, that were looking for an immediate way to accelerate their business. And we're also going to have your guest, George Fraser, on, who's going to talk about Black Power networking. George is the most powerful brother on the planet around black networking.
How about
we're going to have him come in, and we're going to talk about your plan for 2015.
And one more thing before you go. You got to go to blackmastery.com and get her neuro-linguistic programming download. It's a belief buster. It will break down all of these negative beliefs. She created it. It is narrated by Iyanla Van Zant. This is the sister who introduced neuro-linguistic programming to Iyanla Van Zant, and she's created one that deals specifically with some of the negative thoughts that impair black people in America. It's called Black Mastery. Go to blackmastery.com and download it right now. And as she said, George Fraser is going to join this call after the show, 2:30 p.m. If you want to participate, it's going to be heavy. And he'll be on the show to give more detail to that. Thanks, Veronica. We will see you shortly, right?
Hey, do you want the number for the call?
I do. What is that call number?
That is 425-440-5100.
And the code?
The access code is 636167. 636167. That's going to be today at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern.
Say that number one more time in the code as well.
Sure. 425-440-5100. And the access code is 636167 pound.
There you go. Please participate. It's going to be big. Veronica, you'll be joining this show a little bit later. I appreciate you. Thanks for hitting us up. And now, in-studio guest right here with me right now, we have a brother by the name of Bryan Franklin. He has a website that he founded called onemall.com. onemall.com. Brother, please explain to us what this whole movement is that you created and why is it so important?
Well, as many people may know, there are 3 search engines that dominate the internet worldwide. Most people don't think about this, and those 3 search engines are Google, MSN, and Yahoo. Most people forgot that MSN, which is now calls themselves Bing, is actually MSN. But those 3 websites dominate search space at about 98%. The other 2% is others. Then there are 2 bookstores that dominate the internet, and that's Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Collectively, 95% dominance. And then there's another little site called eBay for auctions. eBay has over 90% market share. There is no viable competition to eBay. Okay? So based on there being 3 search engines, 2 bookstores, and 1 auction site, I assert that there only needs to be 1 internet mall. I created it in 1998, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Wow. But tell me what it does for people. How can I use onemall.com? How does it benefit me using it?
Yes. Well, first of all, it's a collective. We actually reinvented what's best known as network marketing. And the reinvention is affiliate marketing collaborative. And so everybody cannot play. It's a finite number. We also invented a franchise model for the internet. And so for an individual business owner who wants to participate in creating wealth from the internet, if you really want to do it and become wealthy, it's going to be through a collective effort. And so the details about what we do is that I have a URL that's very easy to remember. My most valuable domain is black365.com. So black365.com. I ask people to go there. There's a video there about 34 seconds from Les Brown talking about what we do, why we do what we do. And I want people to take an action because the data is there.
There you go.
Black365.com.
Brother Bryan Franklin in the building right now, going to participate on this most important topic. And of course, we juice. We keep juicing. We keep on juicing.
We keep on juicing.
Where can they get this stuff, man?
WeJuice.com. We deliver. We ship worldwide. Next day delivery. We have cleanses, 3-day cleanses for women, men. We have 6-packs in energy, immunity, detox, and recovery. New juices, coconut juice, popular flavor right now.
Wow. I love to support this brother. The juices are incredible. I drink them every week. He provides the whole panel with juices or whatever. We got to support black business, and that's going to be our topic today. But trust me, man, this is big time stuff. Also, go to cdbaby.com and get my lecture on God. Last week's show, the show went crazy. It's viral. It's all over the place. People have been talking about it all week long. We did a show called The God Fraud Show. Wow. It was heavy. Go to cdbaby.com and search Street Scholar, The God Class Volume 1 to get an even more in-depth ideation about what I think on God. It was very heavy. The show was crazy. Look up the show as well. Black businesses you should support. Blackmastery.com is one. Urban Royal Teas is another. Urban Royal Teas or urbanroyaltyteas.com. VeronicaConway.com. Ramomart.com. Ramomart.com. Arise. That's Ramomart right there, that brother. Arise Hospitality. Great company right there. Black business. It is the Black Office Depot. Black Staples, right? Anything you need from Staples, you can get from them. Hip Loose, of course, they're putting together my line of clothing called the Line of Succession. They're professional tailors. We're about to debut a high-end line of clothing for Zoe Williams. Is going to be crazy. Pharaonic Designs. Please support those brothers. They have a lot of nice T-shirt designs. Please. And Easy Boy Web. They just finished doing my website. Pull up my website really quickly so they can get a look. IamZoeWilliams.com is my website domain. They just put that together. Yeah, there you go. They Easy Boy Web, you know. It's really nice work they did. Hey, check it out. Support black businesses. And TaylorInFin.com. This is a financial brother. He's a CPA. He's all of that stuff. We work with him all the time. We have a series where we do financial empowerment, and that's his website right there. Taylor Insurance and Financial Services. Great stuff. When we come back, the topic, questions, it's going to be nuts. And watch this video to get you ready for this week's show.
Fuck that, I make them duck when I bust back. Ain't no shame in my aim, you can trust that. Now how the fuck you gonna start a war and ignore it? You kill our babies, but you not gonna pay for it. Get administrative leave, no incarceration. Then they giving you a paid motherfucking vacation. We living on a concrete.
I prepared a chart. And this is a chart that I think says in another way what he so profoundly provided us today. This chart to me represents beautiful, educated, moneyed black people all over America. It could represent black organizations, it could represent black churches, it could represent black social and civic organizations. And what you will notice about these beautiful black people all over America is that everybody is doing their own thing. Caught up in a Eurocentric value of rugged individualism, having forgotten that it takes a village to raise a child. There is no power here, brothers and sisters. There is no power here. Power is most effective concentrated. You can take a 55-gallon drum of water, spill it over, it will disperse, find its own level, and eventually evaporate. You can take that same 55-gallon drum of water, put it under pressure, put a lid on it, put a hose in it, put a nozzle on the end of that hose, and it can cut concrete. There is no power with us being disconnected. See, there's nothing wrong with dispersion. I live in Cleveland, you live in Atlanta. We have folk in the Caribbean, we have folk in Africa. That's dispersion. That's okay, but we do not have to be disconnected. We are a disconnected people. We are powerless in disconnection. This is where all the power is. You see? This is where all the power is. Whether you are at the center of your own network or part of someone else's network, this is where the power is. There's a beautiful African proverb that says, when spiders unite, they can tie up a lion. When we connect, because we are disconnected, we're disconnected from those of like mind. We're disconnected from the best practices in our community. I don't care what it is that you want to do, what profession you want to engage in, what business you want to get into. I can introduce you to brothers and sisters all over America they are doing it to death. You just don't know who they are. You are disconnected from them. There is no power in disconnection. Okay? When we connect, we prevent interlopers from coming into our communities and taking and destroying at will. All right, George. Try to open up the Booker T. Washington delicatessen in Chinatown and see what happens. So we must connect. We must connect the dots. That must be the movement for our people in the 21st century. We need a lot of us doing a little instead of a few of us doing a lot. We need to get together to get ahead. That is why we must network.
And one of the greatest tragedies in life is getting to the end of your life and looking back and realizing it was mediocre, and it didn't have to be that way. The number one reason is people are unwilling to listen and care about what's important to the other person. But what if you could be someone who dared to care about everybody in your life? When you're in love, smoke gets in your eyes. But when you're anxious, you talk more than you listen. I asked my wife a month ago, I said, I don't know whether to have an affair or buy a motorcycle. And she said, if you have an affair, I'll kill you. If you get the motorcycle, you'll kill yourself. Go with the bike. Okay, so the relationship toolbox today is about the I'm going to have fun with this, about the black community's relationship to itself. And what I want to talk about is how Jackie Robinson, people like Charles Barkley and Bill Cosby and American Idol screwed up some generations. And the way they did that is all these people are hard-working gonnabes, but there's a lot of wannabes that think you can instantly get what they have without doing the work. And you'll see that, with American Idol, it's like, oh, I want that. Oh, you have to work. Well, I didn't know it took work. I thought it was instant fame. One of our close friends, Billionaire PA, who's a visitor, I've seen some of his wonderful shows that he does. And what touches my heart, kind of sadly, is he'll talk to these young adults and teenagers, what are you going to be? And they all say, I'm going to be in the NBA. That's all it's going to be. I'm going to be in the NBA. They have no current experience. They're not even on a team. But that's all it is. I'm going to be in the NBA. And so I think what happens is when you see what people have without really realizing all the hard work it gets to get there, I think what happens is they want it, and they bail, and then everyone who's not afraid of the hard work passes them by.
Wow. So here we go. Dr. G set us up nicely. Today's topic, the African American Economic Summit, a riveting look into the potential power of global black group economics. African American, meaning the African Americans here in America, creating a bridge to the Africans on the homeland. And you know what I like to do? I like to ask questions, and then I'm going to introduce all our special guests. And when I tell you we got to jump on this thing's head, because our people are in a very bad way, and I think we need to build on this. So question number one, is the concept of group economics the real and long-awaited messiah of the black community? Should that be the real messiah? We've given Jesus hundreds of years. We've been waiting for a long time for some type of salvation, to the point where we will endure abject poverty in hopes that Jesus will swoop through and clean it all up after this life is over.
That's real.
I'm just saying. It's a tough question, but we got to deal with it. Is the concept of group economics the real and long-awaited messiah of the black community? Are black people better at passing on transgenerational trauma than we are at passing on transgenerational wealth? I know that hurts, but that's something we got to deal with, right? Are we better at passing on our wounds to our children than we are at passing on generational wealth? Good question. Seems like the Jews mastered it. They hold on to that transgenerational trauma and that transgenerational wealth. Seems like they got it down. Dr. G will drop a couple of Jew bombs on us and let us know how to do it. Please get at us, man. This show's going to be crazy. Are Korean nail shops, Air Jordan, Ralph Lauren Polo, Louis Vuitton, and Indian weave dealers subsisting like ferocious barnacles on the back of a giant black well of consumerism? Is that what's happening in America? We're just blind consumers, making everyone else and their generations to come rich. Is that all we're worth? Is what we can spend? What are we building, ladies and gentlemen? The Black African American Economic Summit is about to take off. More questions. Oh, man. Was it because of black folks' lack of group economics that caused us to lose another viable black business like Carol's Daughter to L'Oreal? If we would have supported Carol's Daughter, would she have needed to sell her black company, which had products for black skin and black hair? Would she have had to sell it to L'Oreal? Is that the real business plan of the black entrepreneur in America? Build a business to the point that you can sell it to the big folk? Is that the real plan? We need help, ladies and gentlemen. Black economic groups, economics is about to go down. Now, I got a guest on the line right now. We got to bring him in. He is a heavy hitter in the game of networking. You saw a video in our last in our last commercial break. I want to introduce him right now. He's going to be on Skype. Dr. George C. Fraser is the chairman and CEO of FraserNet Inc., a company he founded some 28 years ago to lead a global networking movement for black people of African descent, or for people of African descent. Born in Brooklyn, New York, he was an orphan and foster child for 15 years. He's written 5 best-selling books, including Success Runs in Our Race. Please go get that. George C. Fraser, Success Runs in Our Race. And most recently, Mission Unstoppable, Extraordinary Stories of Failures, Blessings, a book he co-authored with none other than Les Brown. This brother is heavy on the topic. His resume reads like War and Peace or phone book. We don't have to go all the way into all of his tremendous accomplishments. Brother George, are you on the line? And if so, welcome to the show.
I'm with you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear and see you, brother.
Oh, my goodness.
All right.
A couple familiar faces around that.
Yeah, we about to introduce them all, my friend.
Oh, it's going to be some heat here this afternoon.
Yes, sir. It's going to be some heat. But I love it. I love it. We got Bobby Glanton-Smith in the building. He is the author of Real Men Don't Play. Please go to the website of realmendon'tplay.com and order Real Men Don't Play, the book. Of course, Dr. Mark Goulston, internationally known, best-selling author of Just Listen, foreword by Keith Ferrazzi. You already know what he's coming with. He's a heavy hitter. And then we have Bryan Franklin, a longtime friend of George, on the line. Yeah, he got the oneeyemall.com. And then my good friend, new friend of the show, Eszylfie Taylor, financier extraordinaire. He's a big-time player in this game, and he's from my town, Dina Love. Give it up. In the building, we about to get cracking. George, answer this question for me. Black folks are the world's favorite ATM machine. We are liquid cash. Is that true or false?
Oh, that's true. There's no question about that. We don't produce anything that we buy, and we don't sell anything that we purchase. We are America's consumption machine. We're a $1.1 trillion economy. If we were a nation, we'd be the 16th richest nation in the entire world. But our money goes in one direction, away from us, and we're some of America's most conspicuous consumers. And we've taken the art of consumption to a whole new level. And so for the past 30 years, that's what we have been working on at FraserNet. That's what we do at our conferences. We have 2 fundamental goals: to help black people build wealth that could be transferred intergenerationally. And again, it's not that we don't have wealth. We're not poor. We're just broke. Again, our money goes in one direction, away from us, right? So we must fix that. No question about that. And the second piece of economic equation is to help black people become the #1 employer of black people. Right? Because that's the only way to raise up the poor. As Jews are the #1 employer of Jews, Asians are the #1 employer of Asians, East Indians are the #1 employer of East Indians, Arabs are the #1 employer of Arabs. We too must ultimately become the #1 employer of our own people. But we are medicated and we are anesthetized. We are assuaging deep post-slavery pain. We are anesthetized by Real Housewives of Atlanta. We're anesthetized by Preachers of L.A. We're anesthetized by Scandal. We're anesthetized by Basketball Wives. Nielsen just came out with a report not long ago. I mean, black people have some badass habits. Wow. And the report, Nielsen said black people watch 72 hours of television a week. Now, any Negro watching 10 hours of television a day needs their ass kicked. Nothing is going to happen for them, right? Wow. Nothing economically is going to happen for them. Nothing educationally is going to happen for them. Nothing in terms of their learning is going to happen for them. So we need a learning revolution in Black America. We need a new consciousness focused on education and wealth building. We are an economically illiterate people, period. End of sentence.
Wow. Eszylfie. And then, Bryan, I need you guys to weigh in on this. But my question is, do black people simply don't want black products? A lot of times black people will see black products as somewhat inferior, as if the white man's products is a little greener, a little fresher, a little better. Are blacks just culturally unprofessional when it comes to black business? Can we speak to that?
I don't think it's so much a matter of being unprofessional. I think that it's conditioning. I think that we're conditioned to distrust, one another. I think we're conditioned to, again, to your point, think that our products or services are inferior, or that, we're going to get a raw deal. But, at the end of the day, I subscribe, a black person can screw you over just the same as a Jewish person or Hispanic person or Asian person. I think people really have to let their experiences dictate, how they feel about working with other people. But unfortunately, I think when you have the media and you have again that deep-seated socialization of distrust, it's difficult to overcome.
Socialize to distrust each other. Brian?
Well, George, thank you so much for starting by giving so much wonderful data, as you always do.
Thank you.
Yes, and I'd like to kind of go to the core and then go and address your question.
Go deeper. Let's go.
Dr. Joy, in her book, The Post-Traumatic Slavery Syndrome, we've got to start understanding how slavery has affected how we think and how it has affected most of our DNA. And once we understand from the core of post-traumatic slavery syndrome, then we can move forward. And in regards to your statement regarding buying products that are others versus ours, most of the products you see in the beauty supply store with Kenta cloth are not black manufacturers.
Oh, of course not.
Okay? Yeah. So to say that we're not buying our stuff because we thought it was manufactured by not us, it's not true. Because the Kenta cloth is what catches the eye, like, oh, this is African, I want some of that, okay?
Wow.
But in most cases, it's not developed by us. Our number one, please correct me if I'm wrong, George, developer of hair care products for us is Dudley out of North Carolina. And they're in a lot of beauty supply stores. They're in some beauty shops. And then, in conclusion, in regards to the black hair care industry, most people are not familiar with the black lady. There's a black-haired lady that indicates that that product is manufactured by blacks. And it's imperative that we just be informed about what's available, what's out there. So next time someone's listening today goes into a beauty supply store, look for the proud black lady. You'll see a black lady with dread or braids, kind of like Susan Taylor. And when you see that, those are black manufactured products. And now they know better, so now they can do better.
Hey, Dr. G, take us to the break.
What I want to find out is how do you overcome distrust and lack of confidence? Because unless you find a way to get people to trust each other and have confidence in them and what they do, I think everything else is surface stuff. So I don't have an answer, but I would throw that out to the panel. What are some action steps that we can do that could cause people to say, you know, I'm going to trust my brothers and sisters, and I'm going to have confidence in what they make?
It sounds like Dr. G is saying you can't have a successful group economic or group business policy if you're still nurturing old wounds. We got to get past those wounds, heal, and then we can do business. But if we don't do that, it's always personal, I think. So listen, with that said, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, more questions, more information on the African American Economic Summit. It's going to get deeper. We'll be back in a second. Holla!
When you live in a poor neighborhood, you're living in an area where you have to have poor schools. When you have poor schools, you have poor teachers. When you have poor teachers, you get a poor education. And when you get a poor education, you are destined to be a poor man and a poor woman the rest of your life. Poor education, you can only work on a poor-paying job. And that poor-paying job enables you to live again in a poor neighborhood. So it's a very vicious cycle.
Try to strengthen black institutions. I call upon you to take your money out of the banks downtown and deposit your money in Tri-State Bank. We are telling you to follow what we are doing. Put your money there. You have 6 or 7 black insurance companies here. Take out your insurance there. Now, these are some practical things that we can do. We begin the process of building a greater economic base. We've got to give ourselves to this struggle until the end. The black man must unite in one grand racial hierarchy, making a racial empire upon which the sun shall never set. Be black, by black, who's black, and all else will take care of itself.
Build your businesses and your industries. Control business and industry, and put that pulls in your money, and hold that money, and practice group economics with it. Arab and Asian money bounces 12 to 13 times what it leaves. Jewish money bounces 18 times. Black folk got to learn how to practice group economics. Black Americans spend every penny they get outside their own community. Then you take the money and the wealth that you get from that first floor and go to the second floor. The second floor is politics. You then take that money on the first floor and you control your politics. Black folk must quit allowing people to tell them to go out and vote. Vote for what? Nobody's going to do anything for black folk in politics. Politics is controlled by money, major corporations who got the money. That's what controls politics. If you have no money, you have no say-so, you have no benefits coming. So you take your money and you control, and you take your money from the first floor, you buy every politician on the second floor. And any politician you can't buy, you rent or lease them to get what you need. Then once you get the second floor under control with the politician, with your money, then you go to the third floor. The third floor then is the police department and the court systems. You take your money from the first floor and your politics on the second floor, and you control the court system and the police departments. Then the fourth floor then is media. You then take the money that you generate off the first floor from business and industries, and you go after radio stations, TV stations, newspapers, and cable systems, so that you can now inform and communicate with your own people.
But really, all we had to understand was our buying power, the dollars that we spent and what those dollars meant. If we spent those dollars in the right direction, we would have created an economic base here, which would have given us power. So we could have operated from an economic base, develop a political base, which we are developing now, and we would have gained our freedom much quicker. But our leaders, a lot of them are very immature, and I say that, not that I'm that bright, but they're immature because the targets that they picked were targets that really would mean nothing in the future.
Ooh. Just in case you didn't know, the reasoning behind why MLK had to die, you just heard it.
Indeed.
My question to everybody here is, black group economics globally, is that an act of terrorism?
Well,
I wouldn't finish, Bobby, but I'm going to let you go. Go ahead.
I thought you took a breath.
I needed to. But go ahead, Bobby. Just go ahead, man. I love it.
I believe in the period. You know that. So you was just taking a comma, so I should have raised up. But the conversation today is so meaningful, and I applaud you for coming at this full force. First and foremost, I learned from a man when I wrote his book, Let's Go to Work, Mr. Leon Garr. I said, Mr. Garr, how did you take a third grade education and become one of the wealthiest black men in Southern California? He said, Bobby, if you want to make money, you have to make friends. And then I stepped back from him and I watched how he interacted with people, no matter what walk of life they was from. He treated people with the same level of respect. And as we attempt to construct in the 21st century a paradigm that would allow us to thrive and prosper, we have to extrapolate from those basic fundamental principles of life. And we have to look at what has happened to our culture over the past 300-400 years. For example, you showed some very important examples, models of possibility. Marcus Garvey cast down, Booker T. Washington should have been in that mix, because what he left us with was a blueprint for educating people fundamentally. All right, forget his politics, but fundamentally he said, look, cast your bucket down where you are, amongst friends. And then you look at the Garvey movement, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. He was reaching across the waters 60 years ago, and he did it from an economic perspective. It's also important to look at how we deal with each other in terms of value, the perception of value. And until we raise the level of value one to another, and I see you as an asset as opposed to a liability, there's no foundation for doing business.
Oh, wow. Really quickly, let me get George back in here. George, is group economics an act of terrorism? We do remember Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. Let's not forget that. Is it still a terrorist act when black people come together and pool their resources to build power? Is it? Talk to me about that.
It is. Because we're upsetting the apple cart, which means then, if it is a terrorist act, it is also, on the other side of that, it is a revolution. And we must start an economic revolution in America to counteract being to the bottom of everything in the country. All right? So yes, it is a form of terrorism, but a lot of it is our own personal consciousness. A lot of it, and Dr. G hit the nail on the head. A lot of it, I have found the enemy in many cases, and the enemy is us. It's our own lack of consciousness. I'm 70 years old. I grew up with Malcolm X in one ear, Dr. King in the other ear, and Smokey Robinson writing the lyrics for my music instead of Lil Wayne. Have you ever compared the lyrics of Smokey Robinson to Lil Wayne? There is no comparison. All right? So I grew up in an era where there was black power. James Brown wrote the iconic song, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. Gil Scott Heron was Revolution will not be televised, okay? We were wearing dashikis and afro. Even I was trying to wear an afro. Imagine, a brother looking like me, light white and almost, bright and almost white.
Yeah.
So I looked even crazy. So we had a different kind of consciousness then, and we need a new kind of consciousness for the 21st century. And it has to be an economic consciousness that will lead a new revolution. It has to be a learning consciousness that will facilitate this revolution. This is what we have to do. I mean, several people mentioned this around the table, and this is a very rich and very, very important conversation that we're having. Wow. I don't know. I mean, Dr. King was talking about this 50 years ago in the Memphis speech. You played a cut from that.
Yes.
And so let's get specific, if I can. I don't know what BMW does for black people. I really don't. I speak at every conference in Black America. Okay? I speak at 30 or 40 historically black colleges a year. I don't ever see BMW. I don't see BMW's ads in black newspapers. I don't hear BMW's ads on black radio stations. I seldom see them on black TV programs. I don't know what BMW does for black people. Okay? Now maybe they're doing something, but I don't know what it is. George, all right? George. So, but black people buy more BMWs per capita than any cultural group in America.
George,
so let me say that another way. If you're going to give me all of your money and expect nothing in return, I'm going to simply take all of your money and give you nothing in return. Now, I know what GM does. I know what Toyota does. I know what Chrysler does, but I don't know what BMW does. But
that's a good point.
We refuse to stop buying BMWs. So until we, with the right kind of consciousness, a revolutionary kind of consciousness, BMW is just going to continue doing what they're doing because, they say, I don't have to advertise and support and invest in black people. They're going to buy us anyway.
Wow.
George,
right.
George, I have an idea for you. I brought this up several occasions, and maybe you're the person to carry it because I don't know that I can. What I brought up is that one of the ways that black power can switch to block power would be to go to this would only be black people who have stocks, who have investments. I think, imagine this, if all black people who had stocks shorted Walmart and then boycotted it.
Brilliant.
That's brilliant.
If they shorted it, and there's a whole list of what Walmart's done, but that could send a message. I mean, let's short it, and you'll make money. You'll make money. And by the way, the earnings, I'll tell you, the earnings come out November 13th.
That's brilliant.
You short them in the next 10 days. You could do it now.
Brilliant.
I can't get the message out, but maybe you can.
Oh, listen, we got to take another quick break. When we come back, Veronica Conway. Did you hear the doctor? He said from black power to block power. Ooh, y'all got to stop hating. I'm going to tell you right now, stop hating. So What Morning Show. You better spend your money with black folks or you're a problem. I keep trying to tell people that. If you're not spending your money with black folk and you black, you're the sickness that we're trying to cure. We'll be back in a second.
Anytime you stop producing, and focus only on consuming, you have nothing to be proud of other than what you consume. If we were producing again, and historically this nation, not just African Americans, have been producers, and we were proud of our work. In the absence of any, we are not producing, we are consuming. And so the only thing we have left to be proud of is not what we made, not what we built, but what we bought. And we have to teach our children to produce again. And to your point about faith being a part of it, the very first thing that God says to Adam is be fruitful. Not be consumeful, be fruitful. Okay? He said, I got the consuming covered. You can eat all of these trees. Be fruitful. Imitate the tree. Be fruitful. And I think that those simple values that we used to have, we need them again. All Americans need them, but in particularly African Americans and minorities need them, because if you don't produce and you wait on somebody to hire you and give you a vision, you may not get there. Entrepreneurial pursuits, producing a product that we don't make the stuff we use. That's true of America in general, but African Americans specifically. We don't even sell, in many cases, the stuff we buy. And until we start taking over our communities and understanding our marketplace and get our lion's share of the marketplace, we will never get up. And the other thing, we have to stop hating each other who does get up.
That's right. Yeah, that's true.
Because then you put people in jeopardy. You're oppressed when you're down, and then when you get up, you're hated. Yeah. So there's no place out, which leads to the depression. Right. There's no place out. We're trapped by our own understanding of ourselves.
Go ahead. That's the truth. Woo! That's the truth of it.
I know this hurts.
That's the truth of it. Fix it, guys. Truth hurts.
It bothers me to hear you crying how you in America, but they treat you like a slave. It bothers me that you are willing to fight and die for something that is not willing to sacrifice nothing for you. Make us laugh.
Come on.
Negroes.
Come on now.
So I'll pay Cedric the entertainer.
Come on.
I'll pay the comedians big money to make me laugh while the masses of the people cry. You're in bad shape. Very bad shape. The richest slave that ever was. You got more money, but you're poorer than you've ever been in spirit.
Wow. Just in case you wanted to get hit upside the head, that was the minister, Louis Farrakhan. And there's some real business being laid out in those statements. And a lot of people don't agree with Brother T.D. Jakes. They say, I shouldn't have put him on, but I'm going to put him on because what he said was true. We are a nation of consumers.
Well, until the church says amen to being a catalyst for economic development, then, let's hear from some people who really in the trenches making that happen.
Well, really quickly, is there any validity to Charles Barkley and Bill Cosby's view of America? And what about affluent blacks? Sometimes affluent blacks would rather just not deal with less affluent blacks or the socioeconomically challenged. Eszylfie, talk to me about the lifestyle of a consumer, one who's addicted to consumerism, and how to turn off that disease.
Yeah, I mean, being in finance over the last 15 years, I've seen the dichotomy, right? I've seen the people who, make $1 and spend $1.50, and then on the other end, the people who, make $1 and save and actually maybe this Depression era type where they don't hold their money. There's that biblical parable, right, where they were given the three coins, right? Mm-hmm. And long and the short of it is the one who just sat on their money, they were chastised, right? You have to let that money work. I always say there's three things that work in life, right? You have people that work, money at work and other people's money at work. And I think that the African American community is really good at working for their money, but they don't let their money work for them, and they certainly don't let other people's money work for them.
Wow, great point. Veronica Conway has just joined the conversation. Veronica!
Yes, sir.
Have you been listening to what has been said here? And Brother George just hit us upside the head with economic revolution. That's going to have to take place, right? Speak to us. Speak to us about what you've heard.
Well, here's what I want to kind of bring it all together, and in the way that I think about it, the way that I write about it. The brother earlier talked about conditioning and how we've been conditioned and programmed, and that is absolutely true. So you're talking about 400 years of conditioning, 382 years of attitudinal racism, 345 years of legalized racism, 246 years of slavery, and just about 50 years of legal participation in society. So that trauma, we are at the effect of what I call trauma fatigue, because we've been under assault psychologically by the dominant culture. And what does that create? It creates passive people, right? It creates passive people. When you think about consumption, it's a passive act, right? When you think about, and we think, George says this all the time, we coalesce around our pain, but not our vision. So we're not proactive in our lives. We're a walking, living, breathing reaction to our oppression.
Wow. Let me ask you, let me hit you.
Because of that, go ahead.
I was going to say, let me hit you with this question, because you brought this up in a previous show, because I think this is solution based. And then after I ask you this question, I'm going to run back to George, because I have one for him as well. What's a black cash mob? And how do we set one of those up? Because we need to set up a cash mob, a black cash mob. Could you explain what that is and the effectiveness of that?
Yeah, well, I'll let George really talk to that, because that's something that George set up last year. It's a proactive stance. So on one day, people got together in multiple cities, and they found local black businesses, and they went and they spent money with those local black businesses. And that happened simultaneously, I want to say, in 6 or 7 cities, George?
George, can you hear?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She was asking you a question. She was asking you to add on to the black cash mob concept. Can you do that?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, we set one up, and we're going to have an ongoing one. I'm hearing my echo.
But we hear you great, so come on.
Okay. And this is the kind of thing that needs to be done on a regular basis all over urban America. And it's simply coalescing black businesses that can service a large, spontaneous crowd over a short period of time to increase their revenue on that particular day 10 and 20-fold. And this is a very simple thing to do. We got media support. We got found businesses all over America that are able to do this. And it's a very, very, very simple solution. And what we did is we asked all those urban Negroes to go back to the inner city and support a business in urban America, because most of these businesses right in the hood, right in the inner city. We said, get in your Mercedes, get in your BMWs, because we know you're driving those, get in your Lexuses, right?
Right.
And go into the hood and support these 6 businesses in these 6 cities on this day during this period of time between, noon and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, the problem that this gets at is a huge problem in the context, and you touched on this, is that we are learning as black people. There are many of us that are earning as black people, but most of us are not returning. See, that's the problem. That's the theme of our conference for next year. Learn, earn, and return.
Wow.
We are not returning. So the black bourgeois, as you alluded to earlier, which was given living hell by E. Franklin Fraser, is not really doing what it is supposed to be doing, right? And that is coming back to the community, investing in the community, right? Helping, mentoring, coaching, serving. That's what we are supposed to be doing, and including brothers like myself, who for many years, I lived in the poo-poo, leafy suburbs of Pepper Pike, Ohio, sort of the Beverly Hills of Cleveland, right? And I wasn't thinking about Negroes, right? I wasn't thinking about them. I had the velvet handcuffs of Procter & Gamble. I had status. You know, I had my 2 cars, my beautiful wife of 42 years. I had my 2.1 children, and, you know, I'm doing just fine. You know, until I realize that if it's not me, right, I have the learning and the training and the experience and the wisdom and the knowledge. If it's not me going back, because wherever, well, you see, white folks have done all they're going to do for black people. See, we have freedom, civil rights, voting rights, and public access. You're not going to get white people's money. You're going to have to kill them first. And you ain't going to kill them, right? Which means that you're going to have to compete with them. We're going to have to compete with them. And if we're going to compete with them, we're going to have to ramp up our game. We're going to have to be engaged in personal growth and development, lifelong learning, and constant, never-ending improvement.
But
a learning revolution with an economic revolution.
But George, if we're going to compete with them, like, we shouldn't try to be like them while competing. See, I always tell, Bobby speaks to this a lot too when he talks about creating our own narrative, taking control of our narrative instead of living up to the character that was written by someone other than us. We didn't author, hold on, Bobby, because I got to take a quick break and then I'll come back to you. But we got to take control of that narrative. So if we're going to compete with them, let's write a new narrative that we're going to live up to that competes with their narrative of who they think we should be. We got to say, no, this is who we are. This is our standard or our definition of success. We're not living up to your standard no more. We're not trying to be over with the Joneses, or we're not trying to be something that you told us was a success. We've got to take control of that narrative and say what success is to us. With that said, we got to take another quick break. When I come back, I'm going to go right to Bobby, and I'm just going to say this real quick for everybody. Without group economics, are black people in the world, globally, are we politically impotent without group economics? That's a heavy question that we need to deal with when we come back. So What Money Show. Be back in a second.
That'll be a short conversation.
As a father, I had an obligation not to give my children everything they want and to demand that you be fruitful. You will work. You must do something. You can't sit around and wait on me to die to get an inheritance. You have to get a job. And
it's because all you're doing is working for a living. We're the only people that encourage our children to go off and get a good education and go get a good job. No other group of people tell their children that. No other group is that silly to tell their children, go off and get a good education and then go get yourself a good job working in a white company someplace. The purpose of a job is not to enrich you. You cannot get rich working a job. The only way you can get rich working a job is if you're good at stealing. A job is designed to maintain you. A job is designed to keep you one way from the welfare line, unemployment, and food stamps.
I started a beauty shop dressing hair in 1915 in the home. We had money, but we were not able to go and purchase things, so it helped us to go into business for our own selves. And then that's when the black people began to build.
In front of Ramsey's drugstore was a cab stand called the Your Cab Company. And there were several cabs, and they were all owned by black. And some of the owners were bought 4 or 5 new cabs every year.
We had our own bus transportation. The city bus lines today were started by a black man, and he sold the thing to the city with the understanding that they would hire black drivers.
In Tulsa, Oklahoma, we did have a little separate enclave where blacks had some measure of financial, social, political independence, maybe even some clout.
You had a whole group of black entrepreneurs who came together and formed a kind of union to help develop black businesses.
The black business grew so in Tulsa until in 1936 it was announced that we had the largest black business in the whole United States.
Wow. Okay, feedback. Sorry about that. I'm just going to say this real quick. As long as we don't like each other, as long as we don't like ourselves, as long as we don't like the way we look, as long as there's self-hate, as long as there is a lack of self-knowledge, we're not going to do business with each other. It's just that simple, right? We're not going to do business with each other. We don't like the way we look. We don't like the way, we don't like each other. I keep saying that, you know, when we start looking at the death rates and black on black crime, not to say that white on white crime doesn't compete, you know, they just don't have the PR person that black on black crime has. I think black on black crime has the best PR in the game because every time we do anything to each other, it's, oh, how horrible the people. But I know for a fact, as long as we don't like each other, we're not going to do business with each other. Now, Eszylfie, you have tips. And then I'm going to Bobby. You have tips, right?
Right.
Talk to me really quickly about those tips.
Yeah, I think, I mean, even to your point, bringing up the shorting the Walmart stock and such, it's that, but I think the reason that you don't have a big following there is because how many African Americans, how many black people own equities? How many invest in it, and how many people even understood what it means to short a stock?
Nice.
Right. And so first it comes down to education, right? Being educated. And that's the thing. It's you know, me for one, I'm unique because my father is African, not African American. He's from Ghana, West Africa. So when he came to this country, he raised me to be the best or among the best, period. He didn't say be the best African American or you're going to have these trials or these tribulations or things to overcome. He just said, be great. And I accepted you know, the challenge. And so I think that's the first thing is just, you know, educate yourself. Right, for all the travesties that we've endured as a people and how crazy this country is, there is still an opportunity. I mean, we do have an opportunity to get what we want if you know we try hard enough.
To add on that, and then I'm going to Bobby. We have to be willing to put ourselves in harm's way economically. Quincy Jones told me once about money. He said, "You hip hop boys, you're doing it right. You're doing it right. Get money." Give your friends jobs, and then go out and see if your money has any power. See, I think the elite, the affluent, the bougie just want to get money and live their own isolated, insulated little life. They don't want to go see if their money has power. Because when you see if your money has power, that's when you put yourself in harm's way. That goes back to my question about, is group economics a terrorist act? Because when black people come together and form that web that the brother George was speaking of, that networking web to where interlopers can't come in and break us down as a community, now we have a power base. And if you have a power base, you become a threat. And niggas don't want to be a threat. They just want to live the American dream. Now, that's somebody else's narrative. When are we going to come with our dream, Bobby?
Today. Because a couple of examples. There's a brother that I found out from our esteemed guest today, Bryan Franklin, who he worked with, who was one of the masterminds of the internet in the most critical way, and that's the .com, .net. His name is Emmett McHenry. We have to give people more factual information, useful information that will break us out of this cycle. And I'll let him speak to who Emmett McHenry was, but I want to use this example going forward in terms of what we can do right now. The George Frasers of the world need to reconnect with the Jim Browns of the world because they are in the same area, the same city. George is a native of Cleveland, Ohio. Jim made his mark in Cleveland, Ohio. And then there's a young man by the name of LeBron James who has said that he wants to he's come back home for the purpose of having not just a basketball impact, but an economic impact. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to make some modifications because there have been successful events over the course of our history in America. And we have to turn back to those successful models and build upon them to break that cycle of not believing in each other. All right, and I want to say this in closing. It don't matter if you like somebody or not. You just have to find value in them. White people don't particularly like each other. But what they will do is rally around their enlightened self-interest. And
whether they like each other or not.
Secondary, man.
That don't mean nothing. I'm still do business with this white dude.
Because we're going to get ahead.
Yeah.
And then I can go back in my corner and do my own thing.
Right.
And what we have to do is adopt that part of what they do better than we do. And that is look for value in each other.
Right. Too much contempt in the black community for each other.
They make no money like that.
But I think contempt is a source of power for black people. Because they ain't got no power nowhere else.
That's not power.
But they can use this false kind of power against each other. Well, it'll make me feel like I have power because I have contempt against my brother. Dr. G?
Yeah, I want to address this to any individual who's listening to the show, and we listen as individuals. You know, people don't do what's important to them. They do what they care enough about. And in order for you to care enough about something, you need to have hope. If you have no hope, you're not going to care enough about anything. And one of the ways that you get hope is by seeing that what you do makes a difference in your life. What you specifically do, you say, that made a difference in my life. So here's a tip for you individuals who are listening. If you can ask yourself, what can I get done today, and then do it, that will improve my life, the life of my family, the life of my community, and then focus on getting it done and see if it makes a difference. So you have to take small steps, focus on little things, see that it makes a difference in your life, and you'll begin to get a taste of hope.
And to compound on that, though, I think it's not so much, I mean, certainly it starts with one person, right? But it's the collective. It's the collective nature that J. Paul Getty, first recorded billionaire in United States history, came up with the wealth building principle. Stated simply, I'd rather earn 1% effort from 100 people than 100% of my own. If we band together, then we have power. No one man. If one man, again, how intimidating is one person, right? If one person decides I'm not going to spend my money here, the effect is negligible. When millions of people say we're not going to spend our money here, or we demand this, or these are things we want, the BMWs of the world, they'll follow suit because they'll realize, you know, if we don't cater to these people, we're going to lose business. But we have to hit them where it hurts, in the wallet, right? Dollars at the end of the day.
Right. So listen, we're about to take a quick break. When I come back, I'm going back to George Fraser and Veronica Conway with this question from fans on Twitter. How are we going to do business together when our households are separate? It's a lot of hate amongst us as people. Light skin, dark skin, your shit ain't together, education differences, you know, more sisters in school than there are brothers. There's still a lot of brothers in school, but there's a disparity there, and there's a rift between African American black men and women. How can we forge a meaningful relationship with Africa when our relationship with each other here in America is toe down? We're going to speak to that when we come back. George Fraser and Veronica Conway, I want y'all to deal with that. We'll be back at 2.2. Zoe Up Morning. Holla!
We have the great historical March on Washington. As a person who believed in economics, what the March on Washington meant to me was symbolism. I didn't need it because I knew black was all right anyway. I didn't need anyone to tell me that I got to go to Washington saying to show that I'm black. But what happened is that blacks spent a lot of money going to Washington. And most of that money went into the hands of white people who own those hotels and their transportation means and so forth. So ultimately in America, it's going to be economic power and political power.
Should own and operate and control the economy of our community. We have to become involved in a program of re-education to educate our people into the importance of knowing that when you spend your dollar out of the community in which you live, the community in which you spend your money becomes richer and richer. The community out of which you take your money becomes poorer and poorer. And because these Negroes who have been misled, misguided, are breaking their necks to take their money and spend it with the man. The man is becoming richer and richer, and you're becoming poorer and poorer. And then what happens? The community in which you live becomes a slum. It becomes a ghetto. The conditions become run down. And then you have the audacity to complain about poor housing in a rundown community. While you're running down yourself when you take your dollar.
We had some of the best barbecue that you could ever want to taste. I can remember though one place though that I guess to get that white business, he had a side for black folks and side for white folks, and I can remember thinking I didn't think his barbecue was that great because I hated the idea that he had to do this. You know, he had a market that he didn't have to do that.
Black folk on an aggregated national disposable basis of collected income, they might be the ninth richest nation on earth. Right now, if I take all the black folks' money annually and aggregate it, they might be rich. They're richer than maybe Sweden, Canada, India, Pakistan, whole bunch of countries, Thailand, folks most all put together. But the difference is, what I keep trying to tell blacks, it doesn't make any difference because it's not aggregated. You aggregate something, you strengthen exponentially the power of it by multiplying the multiplying factor, by putting them together and then piling it up, making it stronger. But unfortunately, we are the only people that don't want that to occur. Because you know why? Because traditionally, whites saw black folk aggregate as being a negative, and we see everything through the eyes of whites. Typically, anytime anything that exceeds more than 6% of something that's black, if whites are in charge of it, and you get more than 6%, that sets off alarm in the white society.
Wow. Back, So What Morning Show. Great topic. The African American Economic Summit. How we gonna do business, George and Veronica? How we gonna do business with Africa and we can't stand each other over here? Our connections over here are weak. Our connections over here are dispersed. They're not connected. We're isolated and insulated from each other over here. George, how can we create a net, a bridge over there when we ain't right over here? Talk to me, George.
That we need in Black America. Make no mistake of it. Since Dr. King has died, if Dr. King would come back here today, he would be ecstatic for Barack Hussein Obama as president. He would basically say to us, is this what I took a bullet for? We are lacking the kind of leadership necessary. So those of us who are leaders, we must man up and woman up. Those of us that can write, those of us that can speak, those of us that have microphones like you, those of us that can control any form of the media. As you said earlier, Zoe, we must write a new narrative. We must create new rituals for our people, new habits for our people, and even new mythologies that are told through stories. Make no mistake about that. Now, I have come up with a very short list of some key things that we must do in the 21st century, because it's going to take us 100 years to solve this problem that you have put out here today. It's a 3 to 5 generational issue, okay? This is an intergenerational issue. It's not going to be solved in our lifetime. The first generation, we are working on it. So we need sort of a new mindset and a new consciousness. I believe that consciousness needs to be led by a narrower cultural vision. We must circle the wagons and work on making black people great first. Not Chicago great, not Ohio great, not America great, but making black people great first. China is not trying to make the world great. China is trying to make China great. And China will do anything necessary to make China great, including taking our jobs. And then when China becomes great, they believe they will make the world greater. When black people maximize their full human potential, I think we will make America greater. We need to do something else that is very deep and very, very, very important. We see this in the Jewish community. We must develop a system in our culture to socially isolate and ostracize those black people of means that do not reinvest and give back to their own community. If you are a Jew of means and you do not give back to Jewish issues and Jewish causes, you are out. You're socially isolated and ostracized. That is not the case in the black community. You can be Dr. Dre, sell your company to Apple for $3.2 billion, write a check for $60 million to USC, a college you didn't go to, the 5th richest endowed college in America, and not give 1 penny to a historically black college when it wasn't an either or. You could have done both, okay? But we still love Dr. Dre. We will buy beats. If he came around, we would want his autograph. We would invite him to sit in the front row of our churches. Nobody complained about that. He writes a $60 million check to a white university and not a penny to a historically black college. He needs his ass kicked. And nobody said anything about that. So that's on us. That's our problem. And as Veronica said, I mention all the time, we need to coalesce around our vision and not just our pain. Yes, we must saber rattle when somebody puts a bullet in the head of one of our children. No question about that. But where do you see the marching and the protesting and the saber rattling around recycling our dollars, economic development, economic literacy? You can't get a crowd of 10 black people to coalesce around that kind of thing. I've been talking about this for years. We must connect the dots. We must leverage our collective resources and intellectual capital. God has given us every single thing we need to succeed. We have everything we need to succeed except each other. Jews have each other. East Indians have each other. Arabs have each other. Asians have each other. We don't have each other.
Wow.
That's the final thing that God wants us to learn how to do, and that is to connect the dots so that we can leverage more effectively our collective resources and intellectual capital. And finally, we must think entrepreneurially. We must think equity and ownership. Those are the two controlling factors. If you look at the history of our Jewish brothers and sisters, they focused on two things: education, being the smartest person in the room, and money.
Wow.
Money. You can solve a lot of problems with money. Money.
Oh, God. Okay, George, we got a couple more statements from Veronica. Corey Holcomb just joined the show. Ise Lyfe is in the building. We got a powerhouse in here right now. Veronica, really quickly, give me 30 seconds on that, too.
Yeah, so, here's the thing. One of the challenges that we have is that when we've been so wounded, it puts us in a really egoic state where we think only about ourselves, right? And the ego says, what about me? So therefore I can't be generous. I can't love on my brother. So we have to get over ourselves and decide to have a vision that's bigger than our immediate circumstances. Like when I was raising my kids as a single mom, we got together and we masterminded as a family. Me and my children, we visioned. I teach teams to vision, right? Because when people can come together around a common vision, then they become unstoppable. But as long as we're worried about how does it affect me and how do I look like and what does it mean about me, that we can't actually come together and organize around a common vision.
Ise?
I own one of the highest retained product development education firms in the state. And I'm an artist, and I'm formerly an arts commissioner in Oakland. And so I'm speaking through that lens. There's two things in the conversation I think are important when we talk about our economic development. One, broadening our idea of who the man is. So when I'm on the continent, when I was in Ghana, the man is Asian, the man is Chinese. And when they go to build the new facilities and they build the new hotels, they bring in the entire Chinese engineers, Chinese workers, 150 Chinese comfort women, and then hand a brother the broom.
Sweep it up.
They don't bring any technology. There's no training or technology. They bring an isolated, incubated Chinese development in.
It's a Chinese production.
Absolutely.
Right.
And ownership there on the land. And they are welcomed by Ghanaian government, Ghanaian people. There's no resistance in there. No different from those things that play out in our communities at home. The other thing as a professor that I see is, when I was in elementary school, I went to school with black kids, Asian kids, Arab kids, and Latinos. Black kids and Latinos, we go home after school. Asian kids and Arab kids, they go to school with us, and then they went to Chinese school, or then they went to Arab school. Jews in LA, they don't see a public school.
They don't even go there.
They're in day school the whole time.
They don't even go there.
So, and at 6 years old, they know about the Holocaust, they know about their culture, they know about the Torah.
Self-knowledge.
We are reduced to academic toddlers. We 18 years old in a black studies class going,
I didn't know that.
We had an African ass our whole life.
Right.
And at 18, discover we black for the first time. And then, even though black studies is a great thing, you see that young black people who would be studying biology, who would be studying math and science and business, they are in love romantically with this new knowledge of themselves, and they get a useless degree in something called black studies. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't know it.
Right.
But you don't see a Korean person at Cal going, I'm taking Korean studies.
Korean studies. Right.
It's laughable.
He already know it.
There's no need for them to go. And then the crazy shit is we paid a white boy that stole the shit from us in the first place
to teach it.
G's
You see? And get the debt to learn it again. So part of it is making sure that we are not, just because other people are so impressed with our culture, that we don't see it as something that we buy and put on, it's something that we become. Right. And also that we have a broadened guard up about who are the people that are attacking our communities, and work diplomatically to realign power.
And this is why I always say education in America is just like religion. How can you follow religion and there's no image of you, and the image of you depicted in their version of it is that your image is evil, and then in education there's no image of you at all. So how can you be properly educated or spiritually educated? You can't get it from either side. Corey?
Well, I'm just saying, like, when I walked in, I heard the guy talking about, you know, what we don't do. But I just noticed this about a lot of black people who say stuff like that. You don't hear them speak out about how we need to be separated from Caucasian people in order to begin rinsing out all of the bullshit that we've been taught mentally. As long as we're under Caucasian rule, there are going to be kids brought up thinking that something is wrong with them and not wrong with the people that are putting them in that position or teaching them all that bullshit.
So Corey, you saying it's like if you fast off of red meat and go vegan for a little while to get your system to recalibrate itself in an alkaline way, we got to fast off of whitey.
Dr. Dre and what he does with his money is not something that I feel like people who have never had money should even try to understand. Because when you do things like that with that money, that's not your money. This is the terms of getting the money. Before you even get the money, what he's going to do with the money has been negotiated. Dr. Dre is not going to just give USC or anybody some money just because. Maybe it was
you got to get this $60 million in order for you to get this Apple deal, or it ain't happening.
So, and people don't even think like that, but they quick to tell you, oh, you a sellout or whatever because you got some money. But if you never had no money, you do not understand what comes from money, especially getting it from the government, because that's who bought Beats by Dre. Whenever you have a successful product that they feel like it's going to make a lot of money, they're going to come. You're either going to sell it or they're going to take it.
Ooh. Oh, this is big enough. Now give it here.
Yeah, Beats by Dre was selling everywhere.
BET.
Right.
This is big enough. Now give it here.
He got rid of the other company and was over there in China making it himself. You know, they don't like that. So what they did, they bought the company from him. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But if he
Wait. We got
sold the company.
We got to take a quick break.
It would have been taken.
Man, great point, Corey. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, more questions. This topic is real. This is real business. The African American Economic Summit. We'll be back in 2.2.
It will not be allowed to grow.
Ladies and gentlemen, the So What Morning Show is back on. Bobby, it's back on. God damn it.
I'm gonna do a rant here. You keep on jacking
Bobby,
me up like this.
Hey, Bobby, you and I got a battle set up tomorrow.
It's gonna start today if you keep this.
Bobby, if it starts today, you ain't gonna make it to the show tomorrow. I'm telling you. God damn it.
I want to speak on what Corey was saying. I understand and can unite with what you're saying about the, there's a bigger picture for folks who have a certain amount of wealth. But I think a lot of times, it's not always like what's happening, like, because I agree with what the brother was saying. It's not always like what Dr. Dre did or what, anything that goes on in our community on a large scale. I think it's more so how we react to it. You can read a lot based on how we react to it. So, for example, if, when we see things like, even within the culture, within hip-hop, I remember, Eminem, when Eminem came out, and his music was, a lot of it was about tying up his wife, beating her, cutting her, throwing her in the water, and forget Eminem. I'm looking at the reaction of the white world. They say, whoa, hold on. And then they challenged the record industry, a Jewish man record industry. What's up with these images you have? The same year, DMX come out with a song, I got blood on my hand and there's no remorse. I got blood on my dick because I fucked the corpse. And we see
that's fine. Let that go. Right.
It's just we don't have a reaction to it.
Right.
And so I think that there's a there's a numbing there, and I think the point that he made about how in other communities, and I was checking because I don't know, I was checking the Doc's radar when he made the comment about how when affluent Jewish people have money and they don't contribute to Jewish,
the Doc was like, "Yeah, we kick your ass out.
Jewish issues,
expulsion,
they get blacklisted, and we just don't we don't have that scale, and I think that's an issue."
I got to ask you a question. If you had $100 million, what black group would you give some money to? Where you know the money is gonna go and be issued out for the resources that you gave it to? Tim, can you give me a black group that you think
I would fund Bay Buff. I would fund the Bay Area United Black Fund, and I would also contribute to buying board seats on agencies and organizations that serve our business.
Wow, that's a good point.
Okay, so look, that's a good point, and I'm not taking that away. Yeah. That's what people need to talk about. Yeah. Money that you can give to people where it will be served correctly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But just to be mad at somebody because they got some money, because that's what it sounded like my man was doing. He was mad because somebody had some money and he didn't do what he wanted him to do with it.
George.
I'm listening.
We want you to jump in on this too.
What was Dre supposed to do? What would have made him happy? That's what I'm asking.
He mentioned it. He said he should have gave that money to black universities as well. He said it wasn't either or. It should have been both.
Black universities are funded by the government a lot of times. Am I right?
That's a great point.
Who are you giving the money to?
I love it. I love it.
Well, gentlemen, if I may
speak on it, George.
Okay, he could have given half of that money to either Morehouse, Spelman, Howard, FAMU, right? I can name 15 universities that are top quality black universities that could have used that money every bit as well, and not as well endowed as USC. So but he's just an example, a microcosm. Mm-hmm. The reason we love Oprah, because Oprah's a billionaire and she continually gets back to black people. She continues to reinvest in her own community. She invests in all kinds of communities, but she certainly gives back to black people. Yeah. But we have athletes and entertainers who earn billions of dollars a year. They retire from their sport or their entertainment world. They end up broke in 5 years, have done nothing for their own people, have not gone back, have not given back. Billions of dollars a year. So if we are not doing for our people, the richest among us, and we don't have a whole lot of brothers that sell companies that make $3.2 billion with this partner. There ain't a whole lot of us. So if at least we don't give something token back to our own people, who do we expect to do for us?
Wow, good point.
In regards to Dr. Dre, at this table, I'm a chief technology officer for a lot of people and companies. One of the people that I'm a CTO for is Lonzo Williams. Lonzo discovered Dre.
Yeah. The world famous Wrecking Crew.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Lonzo's book is being written. It's done. You're going to learn a lot about Dre and things that he said and things that he did like you've never heard before. So when that book comes out, because the movie's coming out on NWA, you have to have Lonzo in that movie because he was the genesis of West Coast hip hop. So I just wanted to say you're going to learn about Dre and things he said. I'm not going to expose anything on this show, but I just wanted to say that.
Good stuff.
And then finally, the HBCUs are hurting, and they could have definitely used some of that money. Matter of fact, in their schools locally.
But see, let's not go away from Corey's point. You guys are both correct. But if black people do not control not only the school, but the curriculum. Now, if you just got a factory of producing the type of nigga you want in America, then you give them that money. But if you got a school that's producing the type of people that are economic revolutionaries that George is talking about, that are people who are programmed to seed the community from which they came, are you programming people who have a knowledge of self? All of those things have to be in place, and black people got to run those institutions if you're going to give money to them. But Corey brought up a great point. If you giving money to an institution that's behind the veil, run by white people, then you throwing money on the ground. That's what Corey was saying.
At one time, Morehouse, Spelman, colleges like that was ran in a way where if you give them money, you are helping the community or the kids that's coming up next in there. But this society we live in is built off greed. And the people who are in power are put in power because they serve the man, the person who funds those schools, and that's the federal government. It's just like it's little Obamas in charge.
You can't be a diet revolutionary. If you're a revolutionary, you put yourself in harm's way for real. Ideologically, economically, culturally, you put yourself in harm's way. Bobby,
you have a job.
Well, in one of the breaks, Bryan shared with us a situation that it fits into this conversation as we go into the how-to come out of this cycle that we just keep going into where we make no real significant progress. I'm going to defer to him by letting him share with this audience what we got to never do again, and that's the Emmett McHenry situation.
Right.
Okay, if you would.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, in 1979, there's a gentleman by the name that just happens to be black that invented what's called the DNS, the domain name server, which is the .com, the .net, the .gov even. And he launched a company in 79 called Network Solutions. Many people might know of Network Solutions, but most people today know about GoDaddy. So it was a GoDaddy-like company. They were first in the world. And in 79, he had this invention. And he went to a lot of black people we know, asking them to invest in his company, and they didn't get it because the internet had not reached the general population. So in 1994, when the internet was introduced to the general population, he said, okay, here it is, you guys. They still didn't get it. And 1 year later, in 1995, he sold under financial duress for around $5 million, personal and business debt. And then 5 years later, his company, Network Solutions, was sold to VeriSign. And VeriSign controls .com, by the way, for most people who don't know, not GoDaddy. But it sold for $20 billion. It is the largest internet acquisition ever in history. The only one that would have been larger is when Microsoft offered $50 billion to Yahoo and Yahoo passed. And so I'm saying this to say this. When there are the inventions and the creations that are created by us, we must support those. And final statement, if you could, Zoe, I want you to go to a website, and that's africanbridge.org. African Bridge was created many years ago. It is the quote-unquote preeminent website that has the ability to connect blacks in America with Africans. It's africanbridge.org. And I can talk more about africanbridge.org in a minute.
Awesome, awesome. Bobby, Corey.
That goes exactly to what I was saying. It didn't matter if people invested in the company then or if they invested in the company later on. If the company is going to make money in America, it will be taken. There's no, I think a lot of people actually have forgotten how we got here as black people, or if they haven't forgotten, they think that that's not happening right now. All I'm saying is, I'm not shooting down investing with each other and everything, but I'm saying, like, if you don't know who you giving your money to personally, you're making a mistake.
Right. You can play the game, you just can't have the power that comes with playing the game.
But Corey, it would not have been taken.
I get what you just said right there.
Corey, it would not have been taken. He didn't get the financial support from his people and others. It was not going to be taken.
I get what you're saying, but I think you're missing what I'm saying.
I hear what you're saying.
Also, there's this notion though that you can lose the money. You can be forced to sell your company or be put in a position where you lose it. But the money is a manifestation of power.
Right.
And I think that's important for us to understand. It's not about just, keeping all the money, but like even the point Corey made about, Dre making a sale to put him in a position to have a larger chunk of power. And I think that's valuable.
I know guys who had millions of dollars was not allowed to use their power.
Wow. So their money didn't have power. Let me just say this. When we come back, a special final thought with George C. Fraser. Great show, guys. We'll be back at 2.2. Holla at you in a second. Take it away, George.
Rich discussion. Everybody, this is the kind of thing we need to be doing on a regular basis. Wonderful points of view. I want to invite your listening audience, Zoe. I want to invite the brothers who are around that table, including you, Dr. G. We consider you an honorary brother. To our 14th annual Power Networking Conference. It will be in Dallas, Texas. The title of the conference, as I said earlier, is Learn, Earn, and Return. Okay? And it's a conference where about 1,500 top black professionals, business owners, and community leaders come together to learn the business of business and to learn money management, wealth management, economic development, wealth creation. We only talk about two things at our conference, money and business. It's a place where we started this learning and economic revolution. And we've been at it for 14 years. It's an incredible conference. It's a place where you can come. There are 55 workshops, everything you want to know about money, everything you want to know about starting and building businesses. If you need coaching, if you need mentoring, if you need strategies on economic development, if you need strategies on recycling dollars, if you need strategies on building and starting your business, this is the place you want to be. It's like no conference in Black America. It is a conference by which all other black conferences going forward will be judged. So I want to invite everybody around the table. All of you are brilliant. We would love to have your mind power there. Some of the best speakers, including Veronica Conway, who's on with us today, is one of the presenters. And we focus on training black people. We believe that our people need training, that we do not need to be pontificating ad nauseum about our issues. We need training in economic development, and we need training in business development. So what I'd like to do is make a special Zoe offer, a special Zoe offer. I want to offer your audience a $1,300 conference package, which includes a full registration for the 3 days of the conference, a bonus day registration, which is a $299 bonus day. The full registration is $700, and we want you to bring a college-age student, 17 to 25. 17 to 25. We should not be giving conferences in Black America without inviting our young people. So that's a $295 offer. So it's a $1,300 package. I want to reduce it by $1,000, make it $299, where you can come as an adult, you can bring a college-age student, 17 to 25, for the entire conference, and you can get the bonus day package as well. That's a $1,300 package. It is good for your listening audience for the next 3 hours at $299. Anybody that would like to take advantage of that offer, just email me at gfraser, F-R-A-S-E-R, at frasernet.com, gfraser@frasernet.com, and say, I'm in. Make sure your cell phone number's on there, and we will get back to you and give you this very special $299 offer, $1,000 off of our $1,300 package, where you can come, you can bring a college-age student, you get our full bonus package. It is like nothing you've ever seen. Zoe, I want to invite you there. I would love for you to have you do your radio program, your TV radio program from the conference live and in living color, and interview all the stars and all the dignitaries and all the celebrities that will be there live and in living color.
Wow. That was a final thought, as Corey said. Listen, I think that was powerful, $1,000 discount. And this is one of the premier networking, events in the world in terms of black businesses networking with each other, and I think it's a big deal. So you guys got to connect with him. And let me add this before we get up out of here. I think we also need a community-controlled community service concept placed in our black community. If we hurt each other, we should serve community service, right? We should do some type of community service if we hurt each other, because to err is human, right? To forgive is divine. At the end of the day, black people hold each other in contempt too much and too long. We should set up some type of community service within our community, so when we do run aground of each other, there's some type of healing process that keeps us from becoming disconnected, distracted, and disjointed. And I think that's our major problem. We can't even get to being business partners if we resent each other to the point that we can't appreciate what each other brings to the table in building a nation. So I say that to say, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hopefully, you know how niggas are. If it ain't entertaining, they don't want to watch it. If it's too many syllables in the words you use, you white. You understand what I'm saying? We got to do better with that. This is a meaningful platform, man. So with that said, I want to get to Bobby. Bobby, where can they get your book, Real Men Don't Play?
Real Men Don't Play. Go to Amazon.com, iTunes, Barnes & Nobles, or my website, www.realmendon'tplay.com.
Wow, great stuff. Corey, where are you at next?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know I got a book coming out called Don't Hate Me Because I Found a Way, nigga. All right, so
great.
You're in Chicago this weekend.
Chicago, you back home, huh? Yeah. Good stuff. Doc?
Now, speaking at the Southern California Digital Symposium this Thursday, I've learned how to hack Steve Jobs and how you can create the future if you look at it through his eyes.
Great stuff. And my man, Brian?
Well, if you want to stay in the Black 365, I want you to go to black365.com, enroll on me today.
Wow. Ise Lyfe.
Cool. Follow me on Twitter at IceLife.com and at Ise Lyfe and IceLife.com. That's fine.
And listen, go to my website. It's up right now. Easy Boy Web, black-owned business out of Atlanta, built the website. I am Zoe Williams. Go there right now. Purchase everything. We got T-shirts, my life coaching. Purchase the coaching. I think the coaching is the most important, but get with that. And, of course, my new book will be out at the beginning of the year. Man, we trying to pull it together. Spend your money with black-owned companies. We got to do that. That was the whole purpose of this show. If you go out to see Corey in Chicago, he got T-shirts. He got all kind of stuff. Buy tickets, buy his T-shirts, support the brother. I mean, it's what we do. And then tomorrow, the 5150 show, live. Me and Bobby going to have a battle about the Los Angeles Lakers. All right? So we'll be back. We'll see you next week. It's going to be a great show. Holla at y'all. Deuces.